Hey, this is Justin. What day is today? It is Wednesday morning, and this is Walk and Talk, getting some of the ideas that are rattling around outside the head, where we go walk in the woods with some snow today. So the sound quality might be mediocre at best on this one, and I do apologize for anybody who's listening. I'm seeing my lights are getting all... Oh, no. Yes. So it didn't do so well with the Christmas lights this year. Went with the lights that are lost reconnecting. Okay. Got a little bit of a bad connection here. Let's see if it's still going here. All right. We are back. Here's the problem. I'm still on my internet for the house. Yep, I'm still on the internet from the house. I got to turn that off. Apologies. All right. Let's get back at it. But it looks like it's stuck with it. Okay. So you have a little bit of a failure on that sense. So if we're looking at this walking and talking stuff, I've been doing this for about 10 years right now, going on these long walks. It started when my daughter was a year and a half. I guess she's 10 now. She's almost 11. So she was about a year and a half, so a little less than 10 years. And I would go these, I felt like I had zero time. So I'd go on these long walks to the office. And I was living in Sunnyside, Queens at that point, and was walking down to my office on Wall Street. So it took about 2.5 hours to get started. But you realize when you go for a long walk, you realize there's a ton more time. And it clicked something in my brain, or I don't know if it clicked something in the subconscious, but it was just like, there's tons of times I've never experienced since then not having enough time. There's always enough time to do stuff. Now, the issue, what I'm working towards right now is creating more energy, right? This is an energy enhancing activity right here, going for a walk, for me specifically, right? I get a little bit of exercise and be able to get some stuff done and get some of the ideas cleared outside of the head. The challenge with this walk is like, how do you start capturing the lessons, right? I was just, we start allowing what's top of mind, or allowing what our subconscious mind feeds us. Is very much like the Christmas tree thing. I wasn't planning on talking about the Christmas trees. That wasn't what I was focusing on in the beginning, but that came up. We talk about it. We get it out. So now I can be a little bit more present in the rest of this conversation. Now, there's a little bit of snow in the background, or under my feet right now, so I got to be a little bit more careful with some of the stuff that we're working on. So what happens when I go for a walk? Number one, I got to turn off the internet. Siri and Automations, is that the app? I think that's the app on the Apple iPhone that does, I think it's called Automations. Siri and Automations combined together allows for really to be able to kick some stuff off. So I just tell my watch, hey, I'm working out, I'm going for an outdoor walk. That takes that. It's like, that's not a hardcore cardio workout, but it kicks it off. Now it gets logged in a whole bunch of different places, and I'm off to the races doing this stuff. Now, I could be thinking quietly, but I think better out loud. I don't want to have, because here's the thing, you don't want to miss opportunities. Those thoughts that come, that you lose them. So what's happening right now is there's a direct link between my thoughts and what's coming out of my mouth. And it's still a little bit stunted. It's like it's still a little bit where it comes into the conscious mind, because I haven't done it for a little bit, but after I talk for about 20 minutes, the subconscious mind is going to take over, and it's going to be able to come up with some different ideas. Now, here's the beautiful thing. When you start having systems in the background, I'm going to have this transcribed. So I'm going to forget 99% of the stuff that I actually talked about here, but I'm going to have it transcribed in the background, and then we'll be able to look at it later, have the future self, which is me later, take a look at this and then see what we want to do with it. Now, here's the beautiful thing. When we run it through a couple of different tools. When I run it through Otter AI, which is by far, from my perspective, what I know of right now, the best value for transcription. It's $10 a month. You get 6,000 minutes of transcription for the $10,000 a month. I think it does it somewhere between 92 and 96% accuracy, but you can train Otter to start to pick up words that is not getting correct, right? So that's the best value in transcription. I know, like, from a quality perspective, like quality at scale, Rev does a great job at that, because it starts bringing human beings into the transcription process, and it works for there. Let me just do Let me see. Hey Siri, remind me to run transcription through Otter. Let's see if Siri's going to do this. I don't know if it's going to work.
Here's your reminder.
Oh. Hey Siri, remind me to run transcriptions through Otter. All right. It says It says remind me to run transcriptions through Water, but that's okay. So yeah, we start kicking off a couple of reminders there to be able to kick. So Rev is the best that I know of for human-based transcriptions at scale right now. Now, working on, I know some companies that are working on better solutions than that right now, but we'll leave that at right now. So run it through the transcription. What Otter gives you on the back end is a word cloud. So word cloud can start to serve as metadata for what you talked about. It's like a little bit of a summary of what you talk about, and you can look at it very quickly. So I'm going to be talking, I've been talking for 6 minutes and 20 seconds at this point. I could, that gives me a little bit of starts jogging the memory for the stuff that we talk about. Plus we have full transcription. I can review the transcription. I can review about an hour transcription in about 4 minutes. So you go through that and start picking out the pieces that actually matter. So my vision, and I should actually just speak instead of vision. My vision is literally just going on for walk and talks and have that start to kick off real activities out there in the world. That's like the goal for 2021, where things just start to happen. And I was just like, I just had a memory. And what it does is, we have, when our systems aren't taking care of us, then the mind starts taking things over. So there was something that I wanted to do that wasn't captured inside of the system. My mind kicks it like, that's the most important thing that you need to do right now, is create that transcription that I was going to create for somebody. And so my mind's like, that's the most important thing you can do. I throw it into Siri, and then it starts kicking off some workflow, and it's going to show up a little bit later on, and then it frees my mind up again to stay inside of this conversation. So that's what we want to do, have our mind free as much to be present in the thing that we are working on in the moment. Now, why I do audio over video, because when I do audio, I don't have to look. When I do video, I don't have to look necessarily either. It's also lighter. Video is more to process. The files are bigger. So we do audio allows me to be out there in the world and be focused as we're talking. So I'm looking forward right now. There's also a mental health component to it. You can't be depressed when you are looking forward out there into the world and looking up. So it also allows for access to everything else that is starting to go on. So that's why I like audio better than video. It's just, it's easier to process. Now video on a 1-for-1 gives a better experience for people. In theory, let's talk about that. If you're sitting down and watching a video, I would argue that is a better 1-to-1 experience than sitting down and listening to a podcast, like watching a television show, from an entertainment perspective. The issue is you can't run video as much in the background. I think Gary Vee was just talking about it on a recent episode that I was listening to. Most people are using YouTube, or not most people, a lot of people are using YouTube as an audio search engine. As they're working, they're listening to stuff in the background. That's why I'm so high on Audible right now, because I believe Audible has the highest quality audio content, people's books. And to be able to write a book, it's not foolproof 100%, but 99% of the time, to be able to write a book, you have to have some expertise in that area. You also have to spend significant amount of time creating it. Whereas this, look, you can argue that I spent my entire life creating this audio messages and coming up with the thoughts that are allowed here. But the reality is I just pushed play and was able to start to create this. And we'll put in quotes, podcast, but it's really just an audio brainstorm, right? Whereas a book takes a lot of effort. So the quality is there. So I believe that Audible right now has the best repository of accessible knowledge on the planet, because it's audio based. It can get in a way where the senses are down. I can listen to an audio book when I'm sleeping. Now, I don't know if that gets in or it doesn't get in, but I can listen to an audio when I'm exhausted. I can listen to an audio book when I'm not happy, right? There's not a lot. Like there are times I can't type when I'm sleeping, right? I can't create videos. I can't create audio. So it's the highest value of, it's like I'm not sure exactly what the ratio is I'd want to put on it, but it's the highest return on investment for energy invested that is out there right now. And podcasts are great for entertainment, right? Now, if I want to get entertained, or I want to get entertained or need to get entertained, then I'm going to go to a podcast, right? Like comedy podcasts are out there. And now I can listen to like Joe Rogan Experience, and there's a good chance when you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience that you're going to have a good experience. The guests are going to be curated, right? He's been doing this for, 1,500 episodes now? Probably more than 1,500 episodes now. He's been doing it for about 10 years. And about, I'll say an average of 3 episodes a week. Let's do that, Matt. Yeah, so 1,500 actually is how you get there, probably, for that number. But I don't know what the exact number is. I can look it up. But yeah, you're going to have a good chance. And you're potentially going to get educated. So that's where you're talking about. That's where you're talking about entertainment and education inside of one session, right? So we'll have, I see what we're doing here. Okay. Yep. So we'll have that too. Let me just see. Hey Siri, remind me to send Yak on Audible.
Audible hasn't added support for that with Siri.
Oh, that's the problem with Siri. Hey Siri, remind me to send Yak. That's not a great one.
Here's your reminder.
All right, so we're sending the Yak. Okay, so yeah, there's a Yak that I want to send on what we're actually doing here, and starting to clarify the value of some of the stuff that we're doing. So we just go on a walk and talk, record the audio message, record the podcast, and then we're going. Now, I don't personally care. I'm not optimizing for sound quality here. The listening to this entire session is probably not going to be, and listening to this entire session might not be the most pleasurable experience for somebody on the back end. But I can start pulling these pieces. The piece that the riff that I just did on the Audible stuff is very useful, because I was just like, why am I spending so much time on Audible right now and doing some of the work with Audible? Why am I spending so much time on it? Okay, we got the built-in mic here. Yeah, we could pause and we could start again. Let's just see. I don't know what's going to happen. Can I pause this thing, or do I just have to go? I'm live. That's what the issue is. So why do we spend so much time on, but I can turn the mic off for a second here. Okay. That's how we're going to start to control this thing. If people are coming, I don't think anybody's in the chat. Of course, nobody's in the chat, but I can invite people to that. Let me capture the screenshot of that. What's happening in the background there. Okay. So, we can start to invite people into the conversation in the chat. They can start to participate. And I think we can actually have guests on live. So I might actually even keep the speaker live if I move over to the other platform, right? Because that's the best opportunity to be able to chat with people. But here's the piece where you start pulling apart the different components, right? You start pulling apart the different components of these messages. And I'm just wondering if I should just be creating something just with all the tools that makes it like that should be one of the focuses, the most effortless way to take an audio message and then turn it into something that's monetizable out there into the world, right? Just demonstrate, allowing people just to go on walks, creating a movement of people that go on walks, and just moving people that go on walks and share their brainstorms out there, and then just setting up the workflows to be able to turn this into something actually real out there into the world. Because ultimately, this is my happy place. This is the place where I'm most happy doing my work. And then, but we have to do something that has value for other people. So I wonder, the walk and talk community, there are people, like how many people are actually talking about walking and talking? How many hashtags are there on walking and talking out there? Just creating a movement around people that do the walking and talking for health benefits, and then just building out that network of the people who do the walking and talking, and then we doing the interactions during a walking and talking session. So that gets a little bit more interesting, that gets a little bit more exciting and fun, and like it's a little bit more entertaining. Let me just see, we're passing through here. Let me see here. Sorry. I'll move through quickly. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, apologies. I was kind of wandering. I'll be out of here. Sorry. Have a good one. All right, here we go. So we have run a trail. There's a dog, probably. You're not used to having other people on the trail at the same time. So what was the point? Yeah, community of people who do walking and talking and being able to share out to them, share out different pieces of movements, and how much can we actually just create through walking and talking? Can we have that be the constraint work that gets done during walking and talking? Sometimes we sit down and we do stuff behind a Zoom. Sometimes we sit down and we do other things that aren't the walking and talking, but ultimately, how do we create the most amount of work going through the walking and talking? Because it is that one thing. When I start looking at passion, it's the one thing that I'm most passionate about. Passionate about is just walking and talking, and inside of it, there's also an inspiration for people to work in a way that works for them. Work. There's something called work. Yeah, I think it's like work. Work in a way that works for you, right? It's a self-expression of working in ways that work for us. And sometimes it's changing between different contexts. Sometimes it's just one way to be able to build. So if I do 1,000 of these walk and talks and be able to focus long enough to do 1,000 walk and talks, it's going to start to inspire things. And there's a phrase that I use inside of these messages: this has legs. This has legs, meaning, this has legs, meaning, hey, this is something, we can go live. Yeah, that's probably a good use case for community. Let me see. Oop. Hey Siri, remind me to follow up on community.
Here's your reminder.
All right, you got it. Okay. So we can start seeing the things that start getting created here. And all of these Hey Siri commands that start coming out of these audio messages can be, what's this phrase I want to use? All these things that come out of, these audio messages are, we should just be processing inboxes. That's it. It's just processing inboxing and having it filtered in a way where we can respond to the stuff that is the most empowering. I got another Hey Siri here. Oop. Hey Siri, set up process for... Hey Siri, remind me to set up process for Superhuman.
Here's your...
Got it. Okay, we're setting that up here. So now that is not as pleasurable experience. It's not as pleasurable experience to be able to listen to this, but the goal would be to be able to start to kick off workflow from some of these commands. So as I'm doing the brainstorming out loud here, what happens is, we start opening up the channels for like other ideas that come. And so we have a couple of different things. We can just stay in the conversation, stay focused in the conversation, or we can put it into our systems. Now we have to trust our systems on the back end. And so I spend hours, like at this point in time, I'll probably spend 300 to 400 hours at the beginning of 2021 just setting up systems that can be trustworthy. So when I can say, hey Siri, do that. Now, I realize when I do those hey Siris, it doesn't create the best experience for the people who are listening to this, right? It's a little bit of a distraction for anybody who's listening to this session when I'm talking to Siri in the background. But here's what it does. Here's what it does. It allows these conversations to start to persist. And, I got it. So now we can start split testing things against it, right? Because when I've got that command in the background, when I've got those set of words, it starts to kick off a to-do item. So I'm still doing the Hey Siri, but I want to get out of the Hey Siri game. And then once things get into once those things get into certain places, then we start turning them into other things out there in the world. And we start to split test other tools that can start running the triage. Now, I could hire somebody to go through this audio message and pull out some of the different components and the different ideas, and that might be something that we actually go and do. They'll create podcast notes for what we're creating based on some criteria, right? It just starts, creating podcast notes based on some criteria. We just do a long message for, just record a long brainstorm, walk and talk, and then start to create something. Now, it's interesting when I am present and feel like the systems are in order and are starting to cook with gas. When we're present and able to do that, then what's the point that I'm making here? I have an interest in actually putting more into the systems. So when the systems are working, we have an interest in putting more into the system. Usually when I get to this place of the walk, I want to stop talking and I want to start listening to something. And it's either, I'll go in one of two directions. I'll listen to something that is educational. I'll listen to something that can actually, so there's three different, right? There's educational stuff that might promote some brainstorming. There's actionable stuff. Like I look at Marketing School, which is great. It's a 5-minute podcast with actionable insights around improving things on marketing. So that is like direct result producing. Like it's educational, but it's also, it's actionable. That's probably the word that I would listen to. And then there's entertainment, which is typically some of the stand-up comedy stuff that we listen to. If or when I'm professional, I'll be listening to my own stuff. I'll be listening to my own stuff that I'm creating here in the back end. And maybe that's what we'll start to listen to and start split testing the listening to Audible, because I said Audible is the best type of thing to listen to in the background, and start going back and forth between listening to Audible work and also listening to my own podcast, right? And how do we get them closer to Audible? Now, the challenge with Audible, I'll talk about this, is discoverability on the back end from what gets inspired from what we actually create. When we Readwise, I can get my air quotes, and air is AIRR. I get my air quotes out of, I can look at them in there and see what I've actually was paying attention to and what I was working with inside of air. I can get them out to Readwise and they can go to other places. There's no good way right now to create any discoverability around what gets inspired by the Audible stuff when we start to listen to it. So when I'm thinking about, all right, I can listen to Audible at night, which is probably something that I will do. And just listen to a book a day and see what gets inspired. But I can also listen to my audio messages and see what's the gap between what's getting created in Audible and then what's getting created in my messages. And I can start to make improvements to my messages to have them be more along the lines of the quality of the Audible stuff, right? Because that's if something is getting into my Audible, it is, again, I said, there's some expertise there that probably had it start getting created as a book, or at least some commitment to have it created as a book. If it's showing up for me, that means it's probably well promoted and it's marketed, like it's something that I'm going to like in the background. And what's the last piece of it? And then the last piece of it is, what was the last piece of it? I don't remember what the last piece of it is. And you're right, so it's probably going to be some level of quality that we could rely on. And then the question is, am I going to invest the amount of energy and time to be able to create and do something with it in the background? And that's interesting. That's exciting. That's inspiring. And if I start looking at where we are and how we want to spend time and do work, it's just around the walking and talking, and then creating the stuff from the walking and talking and seeing where it starts getting monetizable, where the walking and talking stuff starts getting monetizable, and where we can start, right? Like there is a podcast and we can put ads on these podcasts, and that is something that's potentially monetizable. I think the best part of it is the SEO that comes out of this. Yep, the SEO opportunities that comes out of this work. And maybe we start looking at funding sources for we look at funding sources for a period of time. What does it take to get funded, to get fully funded, just to do walk and talks, to do walk and talks every day, and then create the system around turning some of these walk and talks into something else out there in the world. What would it take to get funded? What do we need? Yeah, what would we need to get that funded so it becomes palatable to the family, right? Like where it looks like a real job that we go to and then we do some work based on. And every single day. It's just, it's doing the walking and talking and then creating the system inside of the walking and talking that could potentially be valuable on the back end, and maybe pitch this to a couple of different companies and see what they'll do with it. See what they'll actually create with it. See where there's an interest. Work on the pitch to be able to make it happen, and then seeing how we can actually get that research. That's what we call it, research, right? How do we get that research funded, right? Around the can it be from mental health people? Can it be that gets interesting, right? So maybe it can be government focused, right? Because there's a mental health component to being able to work that way. So who's investing in future of work stuff, and who's investing in the ways that we start doing some of the audio. So let me just see. All right. Hey Siri, remind me to explore getting walking and talking funded by the government. Okay. Yep. How do we get that? And probably just keep talking to it. Something's amiss. Yes, it is. Hey Siri, remind me to get walking and talking funded by the government. Sure. I wonder if I can do it on Siri here. Here, we keep going. All right, we're still going here. Okay, so we did a pause. That's fine. Let's just see. I gotta type it. Add reminder. Walk and talk funded by the government. She's not doing it that way. Let's see if we can do it handwritten. Walk. It's not going to capture it. And it's PDF and italic is how it's showing up in reminders. All right, so we can see what actually got created inside of these sessions, and then we can post game this as well on the back end of it. So let's start talking about the post gaming. I'd like to be able to do something. Yeah, how do we get walking and talking funded by the government? That's number one. Who would need to have a conversation about that to get that way of working funded by the government? Number two, that's it. I think that's two. Yeah, Audible, very interesting, like where the Audible stuff starts to